In the 2024 presidential election, Donald Trump's secret weapon wasn't a seasoned campaign team or flashy TV ads. It was this 18-year-old teenager who understood something that most people did not. While others played by the old rules, this man rewrote the playbook, using the internet culture to change how America elects its leaders. For decades, this is how presidents tried to win elections. 10-minute TV interviews, carefully scripted answers, and politicians who seemed more like robots than real people. But in 2024, something changed. When Donald Trump started showing up on popular podcasts like Joe Rogan, Nelk Boys, and Theo Von, just talking for hours and being himself, millions of people tuned in. This wasn't just another campaign strategy. This was a complete change in how politicians reach voters. While traditional TV interviews got only thousands of views, these podcasts were getting millions. Young voters who never cared about politics were suddenly paying attention. Independents were making up their minds. But here's what most people don't know. Behind this revolutionary strategy was an unlikely advisor, Trump's 18-year-old son, Barron. Welcome to the Tales of Legacy, and this is the story of how Barron Trump changed the way America chooses its president. Politics used to be simple. If you wanted to reach voters, you went on TV. A quick interview, a few rehearsed answers, and you were done. But there was a big problem. In 10 minutes, how much can you really learn about someone? How do you know if they're being real or just saying what they think you want to hear? Young people weren't just getting tired of it. They completely stopped watching TV. The old media giants were dying. While their parents might still watch cable news, young Americans had moved on. There was another problem: trust. Years of bias and propaganda had destroyed people's faith in traditional media. Nobody believed the carefully edited TV interviews anymore. They wanted the raw, uncut truth. And this is why the new era of citizen journalism was taking over. Regular people with phones and microphones were getting more views than major TV networks. Viewers didn't want to hear from news anchors anymore. They wanted to hear from real people having real conversations. That's where podcasts changed everything. Instead of 10 rushed minutes, you get 3 hours. Instead of prepared answers, you get real conversations. Instead of sitting stiffly in a TV studio, you're just talking, like regular people do. By 2024, the numbers were shocking. While TV news viewership kept dropping, podcast audiences exploded. Americans weren't just preferring podcasts, they were completely abandoning traditional media. Barron Trump saw all of this happening. At 18, he understood something that million-dollar political consultants didn't. The old way of reaching voters was dead. The future belonged to long-form, unedited conversations, and he knew exactly how to use them. So what exactly made podcasts so different? Why were millions of people suddenly willing to watch 3-hour conversations about politics? The answer was simple. It felt real. Podcasts also gave voters something they craved: time. Over hours of unfiltered conversations, they could truly understand who a candidate was. When you watch someone talk for hours, you can't fake who you are. Your real personality comes out. Your real beliefs show up. There's no hiding behind prepared speeches. With TV, it was also extremely hard to go in depth on many complex issues that are important to the voters. 10 minutes is just simply not enough. When Trump went on Joe Rogan's podcast, 40 million people watched it in just 3 days after releasing the episode. But it wasn't just the numbers that mattered, it was who was watching. Young people who had never voted before were suddenly interested in politics. Independent voters, which Joe Rogan tends to attract, were paying attention and making up their minds. It didn't stop there. Trump showed up on podcasts like Nelk Boys. He went on Theo Von's show. He appeared on Adin Ross's stream. No political scripts, no campaign slogans, just real talk. Clips from these podcasts spread like wildfire across social media. These real moments connected with voters in a way that TV ads never could. People who watched these podcasts said the same thing. For the first time, I feel like I actually know who this person is. They weren't just hearing campaign promises. They were seeing the actual person. Think about it. Would you trust someone more after watching a 10-minute TV interview or after listening to them talk naturally for 3 hours? That's the power of podcasts. They let voters truly know their candidates. Breaking the old rules wasn't enough. Trump did something no other politician dared to do. He fully embraced the internet culture. While other politicians were posting formal statements, Trump was dancing in front of cars on Aiden Ross's stream. While they stuck to serious TV interviews, he was joking with the Nelk Boys and talking about memes. The list was shocking. Joe Rogan, 40 million views in 3 days. Full Send podcast, Theo Von, Flagrant, Logan Paul's Impulsive, even a podcast with The Undertaker. No politician had ever done anything like this. But whose idea was it? Other candidates were still spending millions on TV ads that nobody watched. But Trump was reaching more young voters and independents through these podcasts than all their TV ads combined. The numbers were clear. They weren't just watching, they were sharing, commenting, and engaging. Voters started saying something new. He feels real. Whether they agreed with him or not, they felt like they finally knew who he really was. Not the TV version, not the news version, the real person. Every show created dozens of viral moments that spread across social media. Young people who never talked about politics were suddenly invested in the election. This was a complete revolution in how politicians connect with voters. But who came up with this strategy? Who understood internet culture well enough to guide a 78-year-old president through the world of podcasts and streams? Meet Barron Trump. At just 18 years old, he became his father's most important advisor. Along with his best friend Bo Loudon, Barron saw something all the expensive political consultants missed. While older advisors were studying poll numbers and TV ratings, Barron understood what his generation actually cared about. He knew where they got their information. He knew what content they watched. Most importantly, he knew what felt real to them and what felt fake. Soon, Barron was making decisions about which podcasts his father should appear on. When Trump wanted to know if a show was worth doing, he didn't ask his campaign team. He asked his teenage son. And the results were incredible. Under Barron's guidance, Trump didn't just appear on podcasts. He connected with young voters through their own culture. From Joe Rogan to Aiden Ross, from Logan Paul to the Nelk Boys, each appearance felt authentic because it was guided by someone who actually understood these platforms. The impact was clear in the numbers. Support from men aged 18 to 28 jumped from 41% in 2020 to 56% in 2024. This wasn't just a son helping his father's campaign. This was a teenager who understood something profound about how his generation connects with leaders. The results weren't just successful, they were historic. For the first time, Trump didn't just win the Electoral College, he won the popular vote. Counties that had voted blue for decades suddenly turned red. Even traditional Democratic strongholds started shifting. The strategy worked beyond young voters. Independent voters, who usually split evenly, broke heavily for Trump. Former Democrats said the same thing. Seeing the real person in long conversations changed their minds. While traditional campaign offices sat empty, the podcast strategy kept breaking records. His Joe Rogan interview hit almost 100 million views. Full Send podcast went viral twice. These weren't just views, they were votes. The election results revealed something powerful. A new way of reaching voters had emerged. People who traditionally didn't engage in politics were showing up to vote. The authentic, long-form conversations had connected with voters in a way TV ads never could. A new era of political communication had begun, not through fancy TV ads or calculated speeches, but through real conversations that let voters see the real person. An 18-year-old had shown that understanding modern culture wasn't just helpful in politics, it was essential. And in doing so, he changed how America chooses its leaders forever. Some people call Barron Trump's strategy a revolution. Others call it common sense. But what he really did was simpler than that. He showed that in a world of fake news and polished speeches, people are hungry for something real. An 18-year-old understood this better than all the political experts combined. Now every politician is rushing to copy this strategy, but they're missing the point. It wasn't just about going on podcasts. It wasn't just about reaching young voters. It was about something more fundamental. The understanding that in a digital age, you can't fake who you are anymore. People will see right through it. Barron didn't just help his father win an election. He showed us a glimpse of the future, where real conversations matter more than rehearsed speeches, where authenticity beats advertising, and where being genuine is the only strategy that works. Sometimes the biggest changes come from the simplest ideas, and sometimes it takes an 18-year-old to show us what we should have known all along. Just be real. Thanks for watching Tales of Legacy. YouTube thinks you will like this video on the left. Check it out until next time.